Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So, Battles of Legends Terminal Revenge has already been officially released. As you guys already know, if you've been tuning into this channel, I have acquired and built Ritual Beast. That is like one of the deck main choices that I want to try out for the format. I already gave my thoughts and analysis on that, so if you want to check it out, feel free to look into the channel. So, the other two supporting themes from Terminal's Revenge, or three rather, have been Infernoid, Genex, and Ice Barriers. Ice Barriers and Infernoids are very popular. A lot of people have already experimented with them. They are trying out other strategies. The Sprite deck has become viable because of the Ice Barrier support. Snake Eyes is just another variant of Infernoid. There are other ways of playing Infernoid besides just Snake Eyes, and those decks are not solved entirely, but they're very close to being solved compared to other strategies. Today I want to talk about Genex because out of every single archetype that got support, this is the least talked about. This is the one that people are not leaning towards, and it's very understandable, the reasoning behind it. I think when it comes to legacy support, they did a fantastic job in just abusing one mechanic. I feel like this deck, if uninterrupted, can just outright just win you the duel. Like, it's a one card combo deck. It can FTK. It can it can throw out a lot of negates. It can throw out a lot of interruptions. It could easily break boards if, again, you're not interrupted because you have a lot of resources to work with your strategy. However, there is one caveat. But yeah, when it comes to this deck, it is incredibly scary. It's one of those decks that really should be respected, because if you really know what you're doing with this deck, you know what you're doing with the strategy, you're going to pretty much outright win the duel, because there's so much card advantage and there's so much interruptions, so many things that you can do. And the card that makes it all possible is a Link 1 monster. Whenever a Link 1 monster is printed, you need to be careful with what that Link monster does, because if in the right hands, this could just be game winning. In the past, we've already had Link 1 monsters that just has been on a point where they're just outright banned because of how powerful they are. I'm looking at Nightmare Mermaid, for example. But Konami kinda missed the mark with one detail, and the one detail is, instead of making a lot of very strong cards, for example, I'm not gonna say our Genex Undead is not a strong card, because it actually is. I'll also say that the Zero monster, the Return Zero, is also a very strong boss monster. And it can also win you a duel if you just summon it in the right opportune moment. However, they fixed a major problem that the deck had, but they gave it such a level of reliance on one card, and they gave it a level of restrictions as well. So the card that makes this all possible is Repair Genex Controller. This card basically, as a TLDR, it can grab a Genex from your graveyard, and whenever a Genex is added, it could be from Banish, deck, graveyard, into your hand, you can normal summon one Genex monster, and that's not once per turn. This is incredibly scary. We're talking about this card being as powerful as Snake Eye Ash, and Snake Eye Ash is pretty much the most powerful normal summoner in the game. But again, uh, in a world or in a format where people are just leaning towards a bunch of hand traps, uh, Snake Eye being responsible for that, this deck just has a really big problem, has a big target on its back, because basically, Repair Genex controller is just going to become like that the monster snipe target for a lot of people's interruptions. And there are two approaches that you can take with this. The first approach is the approach that everybody's doing, and is they're basically dedicating half of their non-engine into cards that just make sure that your Genex controller resolves. Because once the Genex resolver is resolving, it's really hard to stop. Like this deck, like if you interrupt like their other normal summons, they have ways to play around that. They have ways to keep adding themselves to the hand. They have ways to just keep interrupting, or just like siphoning more card advantage, and that just makes it so the Genex controller can just keep activating, and you just keep like looping your resources. So that is one approach that a lot of people are taking. Sadly, this is not very effective. If it was, you'd be hearing a lot more about Genex than the other decks, because I strongly believe out of all the archetypes in Terminal's Revenge, Genex is the one with the highest ceiling, but it's also the one with the highest vulnerability. It's pretty much just weaker Snake Eyes in that regard. So there is one other method that you can take, and that's one method that a lot of people are not mentioning, and that's kind of the purpose behind this video. The purpose behind this video is not like saying that I pretty much fixed Genex, but more to bring awareness to something involving Genex that not many people are probably taking into account when it comes to deck building. Repair Genex controller's effect in for the extra normal summon locks you to the special summon of the extra deck for the rest of the turn, and it's also an also effect, meaning that if you don't resolve it, you are still not locked into the extra deck. However, there is one other thing that you need to take note of, and the other note is you can only special summon Repair Genex controller once per turn. This is a very strong like restriction that it was given, but if this restriction was not in this card, I would have gone as far to say Genex probably would have been one of the best decks in the game. So it was very smart for them to put this restriction. The other one really doesn't hurt that much. The one that really hurts is the special summon clause. So there are other approaches you can take besides like the non-engine protection. Approach number one would be just play a bunch of extenders that just bridges into your Genex strategy while also trying to insulate your opponent from interruptions. I thought of a few of them. One that I thought of was Kashtira. Like you can go Fenrir into normal summon Riceheart, into Dracosac, into Cherubini, into dumping Genex Magma, and then you can do all of that and make Promethean Fire Princess, and then use Promethean Fire Princess to bring back the Magma. But we have one problem. The one problem here is we're locked into fire monsters while the Promethean Princess is on the board, meaning that we cannot make Repair Genex controller because this is a dark attribute monster. But that's like one approach that I thought about. So if you can find a way to just like maybe negate Promethean Princess effect, or maybe link her away before making the Genex controller, and like insulate some of your plays, this could be an effective strategy. That's like one that I thought of off the top of my head. Another one that I thought about was using Unexpected Die to summon like the Genex controller, and then like do other plays like maybe normal summon Rice Heart, make this level 7, and controller plus Rice Heart can make the arms of Genex. The problem with that one is you already wasted your normal summon, and you need to find another way to like keep normal summoning and just keep extending. And you will only have 2 attributes in the graveyard at the moment. You won't have as many attributes. So if you can play like a strategy that can just get you to your attributes and then summon arms and then summon Genex controller, that is another approach that you can take that could also benefit this strategy. Another strategy that you can try to approach is try a strategy that involves pendulum summoning. The pendulum mechanic has been power crept, but as far as like almost generic, well, quote unquote generic, right? Extenders go. These cards can help on that regard, because you are just trying to vomit as many different monsters in order to just try to make a powerful endboard before your Genex summon. And then there is one last approach that I thought about, and the last approach that I thought of is the Atlantean engine. The reason I thought about Atlanteans more than anything else is because Genex Undyne does have a lot of synergy with the Atlantean theme, and there are some cards in the Atlantean deck that can just try to insulate your monster's hand interruptions, like for example Deep Sea Minstrel. It's like one example. You can try to bait your opponent into like making a bunch of monsters before your normal summon. The problem with that approach is that like this strategy has been power crept, and it also goes back to the Kashtira problem, or the one problem that involved like unexpected die, and it's like what can you do to play after you already exhausted your normal summon? The other thing is you're heavily relying on Undyne to be in your opening hand, and if you don't have Genex Undyne, you just will fall flat a little bit. The last thing I thought about is Phantom of Chaos, because Phantom of Chaos can banish the Repair Genex controller, and it can copy its name and its effect. The real stipulation is that you cannot special summon Repair Genex controller, but if you get hand trapped and stopped on the spot, you can link away the Repair Genex controller for something else, and then later in the turn you can Phantom of Chaos, banish the Repair Genex controller, and just copy its effect. It won't get its effect when it's link summon to just grab a Genex back to your hand. However, if you have any way possible to just add or recover a Genex, you do get the extra normal summon effect, which could come up in some scenario. But yeah, this has been like my introduction to brainstorming with Genex. I really like tinkering around with themes that not many people like look into. Like if you've been on this channel, you've already seen probably other obscure decks that not many people like really work or talk about. Like for example, Mayakachi. I will keep brainstorming with this deck. I will keep finding alternatives, because there are a lot of things that are possible with Genex. It just needs the right hands or the right mentality, or maybe in the future we might get a little bit more support that just aids this theme, since Konami probably is very cognizant of the fact that out of every theme in the terminal world archetype that just got supported, this is pretty much the weakest one. Not the weakest one in terms of combo potential, but the most weakest one in terms of like playing viably under the correct environment. But yeah, that has been it from me. I hope you found this video informative to your liking and understanding. Keep practicing and keep doing.